People are going to betray you. That's not a possibility. It's a certainty. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop living like a victim. Do you want to know why? Because human beings are, by nature, profoundly self-centered. I'm not talking about childish selfishness, but a primal, ancestral selfishness, a wild instinct to prioritize personal survival above any sense of loyalty. You think betrayal is the exception, but you're mistaken. Betrayal is the norm. Loyalty is the exception. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He didn't shout it, but he revealed it through shadow work, through the exploration of the unconscious. Don't trust the mask of civilization we all wear, because behind it there are teeth and they are sharp. If you have been betrayed, welcome. Are you waiting for a logical explanation? You won't find one, because betrayal doesn't come from reason. It comes from fear, from desire, from an inner need that outweighs any promise someone made to you. Do. You want the truth? Here it is. They didn't betray you because you did something wrong. They betrayed you because it was convenient, and that's all. Most people don't betray out of malice. They do it out of benefit, because at some point you stopped being useful, because someone else offered more, or because their fear of loss was greater than their loyalty to you. It's not personal, it's worse, it's structural. It's embedded in how the human mind functions, and yet you keep acting surprised. You placed your trust as if the world was built on principles and morality, but the world runs on interests. Loyalty, as a luxury few can afford. Never expect someone to act in your favor if it goes against their own, because the moment their interests collide with your well-being, they will crush you and won't even feel guilty, because the human mind is brilliant at justifying its actions. They'll betray you and convince themselves they did the right thing. But you're the one left with the wreckage. If you expect the world to be fair to you just because you're fair to others, you're heading straight toward martyrdom. No one will repay your kindness if it clashes with their desires. And here comes the most painful question. Why did that person betray me? The answer is simple. Because they could. Because there were no consequences. Because it cost them nothing. And here comes the first psychological punch. People are only as loyal as you make them be. You think fidelity comes from love, but fidelity is born from fear of losing something. When someone betrays you without a second thought, what they're really saying is that you weren't that important, or at least not as important as what they got in return. And that hurts more than the betrayal itself, because it reveals something you didn't want to see. You overestimated your place in their life. Jung taught that betrayal often reveals the contents of the shadow, the denied truths we don't want to acknowledge. He said that what we don't make conscious will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. People don't fail you because they were ever truly with you. They were with the image of you, the benefit of you. But once that version changes, they vanish. Have you noticed how in the hardest moments of your life most people disappear? It's because true loyalty has a price. It requires sacrifice, and most aren't willing to pay that price. And here comes another punch of truth. Betrayal doesn't hurt because of what we lose. It hurts because of what it reveals. It reveals who we were in that relationship, naive, idealistic, and blind, and it reveals who they truly were, opportunistic, self-serving, and cowardly. The most terrifying part of betrayal isn't the act itself, but the unveiling, the realization that everything you believed was a lie. And that's where paranoia begins. You start to look at everyone with suspicion, because if the person you trusted blindly was capable of stabbing you in the back, then what is everyone else capable of? Distrust floods in, and with it, loneliness. But here's the part no one talks about at this point. Loneliness becomes a privilege because after a betrayal that is real, you can no longer afford to be surrounded by wolves in disguise. Betrayal is a purge, a painful cleansing, a necessary severing. And yes, it costs you dearly because you still love that person, but what you're longing for isn't them. It's the illusion, and that illusion is destroying you. You must let it go. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves we refuse to see. Betrayal brings the shadow to light. Not just theirs, but yours. What doesn't kill you can make you stronger, but only if you understand it. Because if you don't, what doesn't kill you will leave you bitter and distrustful. Not stronger, just more closed off. Do you want to grow from betrayal? Then stop idealizing, justifying, and romanticizing pain. Accept that human beings are infinitely capable of failure. Your responsibility isn't to avoid betrayal. It's to ensure it doesn't happen again, and that's only possible by refusing to idealize. See people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Watch how they behave when no one's watching. And most importantly, learn to disappear when someone betrays you. Don't explain, don't beg, don't seek revenge. Just disappear. The harshest punishment for a traitor is your absence, your silence, your void, because traitors don't expect real consequences. They expect drama and attention. Give them the one thing they don't expect: nothing. Build from the pain and the rage, and make that betrayal your foundation. Not to prove anything to them, but to remind yourself that you're alive and that you don't need anyone who can't hold. True to their word. Remember this: betrayal reveals, but it does not define. You are not what was done to you. You are what you do with what was done to you. And if you can stare betrayal in the eyes without becoming what you hate, then you have won. When someone betrays you, they don't just shatter your trust in them. They also break the image you had of yourself. Because if the person you gave your affection to could destroy you without blinking, then what does that say about you, about your judgment, your discernment, your worth? Betrayal has two blades. One points outward to them. The other stabs inward to you. Because when someone betrays you, you don't just think, they failed me. You think something far more dangerous. I was foolish enough to believe they wouldn't. And that thought is the one that breaks you because it makes you doubt yourself. Betrayal doesn't just destroy relationships. It destroys identities. You don't know who you are anymore because you can't look at yourself with the same eyes. You can't even trust your intuition. Betrayal is an inner fracture. It doesn't stay in the act. It settles into your perception. And the worst part is, you learn to live with it. You learn to distrust everyone, to never fully give, to live halfway, believing that it protects you, when in truth it just locks you away. Do you know what betrayal does? It turns you into what you swore you'd never be: cold, calculating, and shielded. But that shield also keeps you from feeling, from connecting, and from creating anything real. Betrayal leaves a scar so deep that if you're not careful, it turns you into a betrayer too. Because when trust dies, you betray yourself, your empathy, your essence, and your ability to trust. It's the perfect cycle of trauma. And this is where something even darker appears: self-deception. After betrayal, the psyche activates a survival instinct, and one of its most subtle defenses is rewriting the story. You tell yourself it wasn't that important, that it didn't hurt, and that it was for the best, but none of that is true. You do it to avoid breaking even more. But it's a slow poison, because the more you suppress pain, the more you lose touch with yourself. You start creating false versions of who you are, versions that smile while they bleed and say, "I'm fine," while they quietly collapse. Want to know what Carl Jung would say about that? That you're drifting away from the self, that you're repressing your shadow, that you're denying your own humanity out of fear of suffering. Betrayal forces you to choose. Either it destroys you or it transforms you. Here's a brutal truth: you cannot avoid betrayal, but you can choose what to do with the wound. You can let it rot you from the inside, or you can turn it into a mirror that shows you who you were, what you tolerated, and what piece of yourself you sold to hold on to something already broken. I know it sounds cruel, but there's a part of you that allowed the betrayal. You didn't cause it, but you did endure it, because at some level we all know exactly who we're dealing with. We just pretend not to see when it benefits us. You cling to false signals and ignore the red flags because the need to feel loved outweighs your instinct to protect yourself. Then the deepest fear arrives. What if I can never trust again? And it's not just about the other person, it's the world. Everything feels corrupted. You believe loyalty no longer exists. But that's not the truth. Betrayal makes you see the world as a battlefield, but reality is more subtle. Not everyone will fail you, but you must learn to see differently, to watch what people do, not just what they say. You'll have to let go of many connections and rebuild your intuition from zero. But that's the only way back to yourself. Because betrayal isn't overcome with anger. It's healed through reconstruction, rebuilding your inner world, redefining your limits, and healing your identity. And when you do that, only then can you trust again. Not blindly, but with clarity, strength, and awareness. Don't let a betrayal define your entire story, but don't ignore it either. Don't drown the pain in noise or pretend it didn't leave a mark, because if you do, you're condemning yourself to repeat it. Now, let's go even deeper into the darkness, the silent betrayal. Not all betrayals come with a knife. Some arrive disguised as indifference, as silence, as emotional distance, and those are the deadliest ones. You brace yourself for the obvious betrayal, but you're not prepared for the passive betrayal, the one where the person you needed the most simply wasn't there. They didn't stab you in the back, but they stood by while others did. And here comes the question that breaks your soul. Who hurt you more? The one who betrayed you or the one who didn't defend you? That silence, that absence, that neutrality, disguised as "I don't want to get involved." That's the kind of betrayal that wounds the deepest, because you're left speechless. You can't point it out. You can't accuse. There's no evidence, just a visceral feeling that someone who should have been there simply wasn't. And the saddest part, sometimes that same person still tells you they love you, but they do it from a distance with hollow words, as if saying, "I'm here," was enough even when they're not. And you know what truly hurts about this silent betrayal? It forces you to realize you were more alone than you thought, that the safety net you believed in was just an illusion. This brings us to a brutal truth: betrayal as disillusionment. Because when someone betrays you, it's not just the act that hurts. It's the collapse of an entire narrative, a story you built in your head. You had convinced yourself this person was different, but that story was false. You realize it wasn't a relationship between two real people. It was a relationship between you and the idea you had of them. And that's when the next crack appears. You start doubting your ability to see reality clearly. You begin projecting betrayal even where it doesn't exist, because now your mind runs a new program. Better to be cautious than to bleed again. But living that way isn't living. It's surviving. Now comes the point no one dares to face. Sometimes the true traitor is you toward yourself, because deep down you knew. There were signs, but you chose not to see them. You stayed quiet, tolerated, and adapted because your fear of losing that relationship was stronger than your love for yourself. And that is the hardest betrayal to admit. Do you know why you did it? Because you were addicted to hope, to fantasy, to the belief that if you gave your best, the other would finally see your worth. But that's a lie. Not everyone knows how to receive. Not everyone sees value. There are people who, no matter how much love you give them, will always feel empty because their loyalty depends on their void. You cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You cannot hold a relationship with someone who is used to destroying everything the moment it starts to work. When they betray you, they don't even see it as betrayal. They'll say you suffocated them, that they weren't ready, and you'll be left there, soul shattered, while they move on as if nothing happened. Because yes, some people can betray you and sleep like a baby. You need to make a cut, a break, a reset. Because if you don't, you'll keep attracting the same kind of people. People who only love you when you're silent, when you don't demand, when you don't shine too brightly. That, too, is a form of betrayal. Betraying yourself just to be accepted. How many times have you dimmed your light so you wouldn't disturb others? That's betrayal too, but one that moves from you toward yourself. Jung once reminded us of the masks we wear. The world demands we forget ourselves. We suffer so deeply from betrayal that we've learned to rename it experience or lesson. But no, some things should never happen. And when they do, you must call them by their real name: betrayal. Don't dress them up or excuse them. Name them, because only when you name them can you begin to heal. And more importantly, only then can you choose. Choose to never again place your soul in the hands of someone who cannot even hold their own. Choose not to shrink yourself to fit. Choose to be alone rather than poorly accompanied. Here's one of the hardest truths. Most people don't want someone strong, they want someone manageable. So if you decide to be free, authentic, and unstoppable, prepare yourself. They will try to betray you, not because you're weak, but because your strength threatens them. That's the moment you'll realize you're no longer the victim. You've become the threat. Betrayal doesn't just reveal who others are. It reveals you. It shows your ability to rise, to become harder without becoming cruel, to trust again, but without blindness. Because in the end, that's what saves you. Not that people stop betraying you, but that you learn not to let betrayal take away who you are. And that is power. Betrayal is the baptism of the strong. It hurts, it breaks you, it empties you, but it also awakens you. It rips the blindfold from your eyes once and for all. Because before betrayal, you were only a version of yourself. But after, you're bare, alone, raw, but real. And that, as strange as it sounds, is the beginning of everything. The person who rises after betrayal is not the one who fell. They no longer need mirrors to define themselves. They no longer sell themselves for a drop of affection. They no longer confuse company with connection. Betrayal is alchemy. It takes your innocence and melts it into wisdom. And if you dare to face it, it gives you back something no one can teach or sell. Vision. So listen carefully. The next time someone betrays you, don't react like before. Just leave quietly without drama. Because betrayal only destroys those who don't know how to walk away. And if you've been waiting for a sign to let go, this is it. This is your silent scream, your unspoken permission, your farewell to all that once made you feel small. Now it's your turn to become the kind of person who doesn't need applause to keep going. If this message stirred something deep inside you, then do one thing. Subscribe. Because this channel isn't for everyone. It's for those ready to break their masks and their limits. Leave a comment with this phrase: I'm no longer who I was when this video began. That's how I'll know you're one of the awakened. I'll see you in the next one. But remember, the next time they betray you, underestimate you, or ignore you, don't let them find you in the same place. Disappear from where you were never valued. Reappear where no one expected you. That's where real power begins. And you've just crossed that threshold. Welcome, or better said, welcome back to yourself. See you in the shadows.